So, very good afternoon, all doctors, and very warm welcome to the doctors who join our webinar. My name is Akshay Sharma, and I'm a trainer in RadarOpus Homeopathic software team. So, our company motive to organize this webinar to show the power of homeopathy, culture, and importance of homeopathy. Today's webinar chief guest is Dr. M.K. Sahani sir and speaker Dr. Balachandran. And the webinar topic is Perceiving Rubrics, Oedipus Complex. So before start the session, I just introduce Dr. Sahani. Dr. Sahani is a eminent personality of homeopathy, and he's a former chairman in educational committee for more than 5 years. He served the council with the developing curriculum educational regulation in homeopathy, and is a former member in education committee since 1990 to 2012 for approx 22 years at Delhi. He is the founder of Research Institute of Sahani Drug Transmission in Homeopathy and also a chairman of the same. He is a professor and HOD in GDU Memorial Hospital, Medical College and Hospital Patna. And he given live speech at Akashvani, Doordarshan, and winning multiple international and national awards. So we are grateful to having you, sir. And our next guest, chief guest, is Dr. D. Balachandran. He is a MD of Pediatrics Homeopathic and Senior Medical Officer at AIIMS Patna. He is a former professor and HOT department, Practice of Medicine at RKDF University, Bhopal. Thank you for coming, sir, and thank you for your time. Now you can start your session, sir. It's over to you.
Thank you, Sharmaji. It is nice meeting you today and Dr. Balachandran and all the audience who are participating in this webinar. Friends, today's topic is Perceiving Rubrics, Oedipus Complex. Now it is important to think about it, why this rubrics has been included in this repertory. So for this we have to go back into the evolutionary stage of the repertory. See, in the beginning, when Dr. Hahnemann introduced this topic or the subject of repertory, the idea was only to have an index, proper index. And he himself prepared the wide range of the symptoms and according to the corresponding the medicines along with it. And with a gradual and subsequent some formalizations and regulations were created by Dr. Bonnigersen subsequently and Dr. Chen also. So this is the evolutionary stage. I'm not going to tell you in the detail, but till the Kantian era, I say beginning from the Hahnemann era to Bonnigersen's era and then Kantian era, you will find all the rubrics are from the Materia Medica and the language that has been collected during the drug proving. But coming to the synthesis and the synthetic, the rubrics started accumulating in a different way. And we see many of the things that you cannot find in the repertory, like about this topic also, Oedipus complex, the word will not be there in your Materia Medica elsewhere. So now what is what change is going, what type of the change is going on? The different, this we have to think, because unless we have the thinking, give a thought on it, it will be difficult for us to accept the new rubrics. So all the old rubrics were in the language of the repertory and they were made precise through the rubrics. The symptoms expressed through the rubrics. But, and it is not a standard, because at different places, the same meaning and expressions are there and they are expressed elsewhere, but they have the same meaning, yet who go through the repertory, they find difficulty whether which rubrics to take and which rubrics to not to take. So now the common understanding that is coming up now, that we must have a standard rubrics format, I tell you an example about the fastidious, which is there in the Kantian repertory also, and in the synthesis repertory also, and in the RadarOpus also you find it. But what is the difference between the rubrics of the Kent, of the synthesis, and the RadarOpus and radar agonist? The only thing is that the number of the medicines has swelled up from 2 to multiple. And why it is happening? Because we have standardized, we are now going to use the standard word meaning of the rubrics, that is the fastidious. Hard to please. And there are many medicines, not only Naxvomika or Pulsatilla, hard to please. So I can tell you what Dr. Kent thought about the Pulsatilla and about the fastidious, only about the being the perfections in their presentations, in their way of living. But now there are many things where we cannot make a compromise, like sulfur. Can you say the sulfur people not to think, not to have a philosophical thoughts? You cannot make them convince. Like Natrum Muticum, if you feel that and tell them with it is you are not getting late, but they will never think about that. So the fixed idea about the time must be in the time, must be must have an objective, must have this, must have learning, must have this or that. So and in this way, the different expressions of the fastidious is coming up. So the number of medicines are increasing. Now another aspect is that there are the understanding that there should be the and relating with the psychology, because psychology is acceptable to everyone, and it is it has evolved as a standard terminology are there, and they are being used in everyday life. So many psychological terminology are there. So now this with the onset of this RadarOpus and synthesis thought team, they thought of including and standardizing the meaning of the rubric so that we can have a standard meaning. So don't try to compare the meaning of the synthesis repertory with the Kantian repertory or the Bonington. They have their own different view. But the view and understanding that is there in the synthesis is very close to the psychological understanding of the general psychology. So with this context, this new rubrics has been added, and it is not the only one, this rubric. So many rubrics are coming up inside it, and in future, I feel, and I also accept it heartily, that there must be this type of the inclusion, and because so that internationally these rubrics can be acceptable for all. So this is my view about the today's topic, Oedipus complex. It is basically a evolved word from the psychology, and when you try to see the corresponding rubrics along with, there are so many so many cross references are there. Mind clinging, children clinging to the mother. Mind mother complex, mind mother fixation. Now this mother complex and mother fixation, it is also a psychological terminology. And mind clinging children, it is a general terminology. So include and think about the this psychological rubrics, aspect of the rubrics. We have to think and compare with the existing rubric so that you can include some of the medicines and make them a common understanding. Like clinging, it's a magnetism and so many phenomena are there. So it is you see the calcarea and calcarea mule, lactic acid, and several medicines are there. Today we have very expert and senior most physician with us, Dr. D. Balachandran. I had a good acquaintance with him since he was not in the AIMS. He was working at the Chennai, and we had a good discussions, understanding about the growth of the repertory. And when he came to Patna to join the AIMS as a senior medical officer, I had a good chatting and found that this man is looking for something standard and in the format. So because he has to prove himself being a homeopathy and living with the allopath physicians. So this is the greatest challenge for the Dr. D. Balachandran and all the medical officers who are working with the AIIMS and the government officials. And those who, in this diversity of the medical science, medical scenario, we have to prove ourselves that we are at par with your knowledge, or rather better than your standard than your knowledge. So Dr. Balachandran has collected so many informations about this rubric, and I'm glad that he is here to come up and he has dared to explain this rubrics, because I have not found his type of the explanations in the past. Nobody has dared to come up with the detailed information about the. So now this type of the research work is required for the growth of the repertory. And when the repertory will grow up, you will find that this homeopathy and materia medica, which is the vast topic, it will come under your growth. And many of the things can get materialized and can be understood according to the psychological terminology. So with this small introductions, I will request Dr. Balachandran ji, D. Balachandran ji, young man, an energetic man, serving lot of patients every day at the AIIMS, and to explain and tell us about the rubrics Oedipus complex. So over to you, Dr. Balachandran.
Thank you, Dr. Mridul Sahani, sir. It has been a pleasure meeting you through the virtual virtual platform. And good evening, one and all. Good evening to all the delegates who are here to attend the webinar on Perceiving the Rubric Oedipus complex. Thank you, RadarOpus, for organizing this virtual platform, for giving me an opportunity to make the delegates and the respected viewers to understand this particular rubric. It's a new rubric, as Dr. Sahani said, and there is much to be learned regarding this particular rubric. So it will be a lengthy session, and in the previous webinars what I have taken regarding this particular rubric, I have divided the seminar into 3 sessions. The first session will be regarding the hero Oedipus, who is a tragic hero in the Athens or the Greek philosophy. And the next would be the psychological background, the interpretation of the Oedipus complex being basis of psychoanalysis. And the third last session will be the Oedipus complex as a rubric in homeopathy. So since this is a 1.5 hour seminar from 2 to 3:30, I thought we club this all together in one single session and complete it as a stretch. And if you have any questions, you can type this in the chat, or else you can note these questions in a separate paper. And at the end of the session, we have the question and answer session, whereby you can raise your questions, and I'll be glad to give away the answers if I know. Right? And without much ado, let me get into the topic. Let me share the screen. And I hope my voice is audible to all and it's very clear.
You are audible, sir. You are audible.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sharing my screen right now. Kindly see to it. Yes, the screen is visible, right?
Yeah, it's
Fine, right. So the rubric, understanding the rubric Oedipus complex, or perceiving the rubric Oedipus complex, as the topic goes. Now, I'll give you an introduction. What is Oedipus complex? Just a small into what is Oedipus complex, and we'll later on the further slides will explain you in detail regarding it. So what is Oedipus complex? Oedipus complex means the attachment of a child to the parent of the opposite sex, accompanied by envious and aggressive feelings towards the parent of the same sex. So here we have a child, a boy in our example. The boy is having a father and mother. Okay, this boy is going to have an envious and aggressive feeling towards the parent of the same sex, that is towards his father, and an attraction or attachment to the parent of the opposite sex, that is towards his mother. So this is what an Oedipus complex means. And everybody will think that it is a normal phenomena, because every boy is attached to the mother and every boy is not aggressive. We can say that they are a bit timid, or they are having a bit, a fear towards the father. But this is not the thing what you think. So this is something different. See, these feelings are largely repressed, that is remaining unconscious, because of the fear of displeasure or punishment by the parent of the same sex. So if the father comes to know that the boy is having attachment towards his mother, that is of the opposite sex, and having an aggression or envy towards his father who is of the same sex, the father might punish him. So the boy does not let it out, rather he represses it inside into his subconscious mind. In its original use, the term is applied only to the male, that's to a boy or a man. So Oedipus complex refers to the attachment of a boy towards his mother, accompanied by an envious and aggressive feeling towards his father, that's of the same sex. Okay, and if this applies to a daughter having an attraction towards or affection towards father and envious and aggressive feeling towards the mother, then it is called as the Electra complex. This particular Electra complex is not introduced into the psychology by Sigmund Freud, who has introduced the Oedipus complex, but rather it is by Carl Gustav Jung, who is the father of analytical psychology, who is the we can say as a contemporary of Sigmund Freud and as a Shishya or the apprentice to Sigmund Freud during his years, right? So that's about the Electra complex. Now our topic is regarding the Oedipus complex. We will see here. The term Oedipus complex is derived from the character Oedipus Tyrannus, an Athenian tragedy play called the Oedipus Rex, written by Sophocles, who is a Greek philosopher or playwright between the years 430 to 426 BCE. That's before the Christ, right? And if you see the Sophocles is a ancient poet, or he is a playwright, just like the Shakespearean play. He is famous for the Theban anthology or Theban plays. The three Theban plays includes the Oedipus Rex, which is the part 1, followed by Antigone, which is part 2, and followed by Oedipus at Colonus, which is part 3. So these are the three Athenian tragedy plays which are famously called as the Theban plays. These three plays are written by Sophocles, and Oedipus Rex is the first part of this particular Theban play, which is written by the Sophocles between the years 430 to 456 BCE. Now let us understand the tale of Oedipus. Many of you have not known this particular tale, because only if you know this particular tale, you will come to know why Sigmund Freud has chosen the particular character Oedipus to give a preterm to the Oedipus complex. So we will study the play. It's very interesting and fascinating. And I hope so someone would take a film in the near future regarding this particular tale, because it has a lot of twists and turns, just what you expect in a film, right? So let's understand. But the end is somewhat tragedy. That is why it is a tragedy tale. We'll come to know what it is, right? Now listen to the tale very carefully, right? The ancient city of Thebes in the central Greece was once ruled by the king Laius and queen Jocasta. The couples were blessed with a son who was later named as Oedipus, right? So there is an ancient city called Thebes in the central Greece, which was ruled by a king and queen. The king's name is King Laius and the queen's name is Queen Jocasta. King Laius and Queen Jocasta is blessed with a boy who was later named as Oedipus. Right? What happens in the ancient tales or ancient era, when royalty has given born to a child, they would generally take the child to a soothsayer or a prophesier or a oracle to find out what his future holds or what his fate would be, right? You might have heard King Alexander, before invading any part of the world, would go and consult an oracle to find out which direction he has to take his march to win the war. So according to the oracle's instruction, Alexander would next pave his step. Okay. Likewise, here King Laius and Queen Jocasta, who are the new parents to the boy, has taken this particular child to the oracle of Delphi. Delphi is in Apollo, the king of Apollo, the temple of Apollo, whereby the prophesier or the oracle, who is a virgin who used to sit in the temple as a prophesier or soothsayer, and this particular boy who is newly born is taken to the oracle of Delphi, which is there in the Athens at the temple of Apollo, to find out what his fate holds for him. And when the oracle began to narrate about the fate of the particular boy, Oedipus, then that has brought a shocking news. Even the new parents, the King Laius and Queen Jocasta, got shocked and they were depressed by hearing the prophecy. What did she say? What did the oracle say? Oracle has said that the King Laius would be doomed to perish by the hand of his own son, and he would marry his mother. That is what the oracle has said to the parents. That is, Oedipus would kill his father, and the land which is ruled by Oedipus would be perished to plague, and Oedipus, after killing his father, would marry his own mother. This is what the prophecy holds for Oedipus, and this is what the oracle has said to this King Laius and Queen Jocasta. After hearing this particular prophecy, the parents decided to get rid of the child, because none of the prophecy should come true in the near future, because killing his own father and marrying his own mother, both are detrimental, and it's considered a taboo in the society. That is what they said. They decided to get rid of the child. So what did they do? King Laius has ordered Queen Jocasta to kill the child. Okay, and when the child was almost 4 days old, Queen Jocasta has ordered one of her servants to pierce the boy, the infant, in his ankles and tie him with a rope and let him hang on the top of a tree in the mount called Mount Cithaeron, which is there at the outskirts of this particular city of Thebes. Okay, so the boy would be taken by one of the servants of Queen Jocasta, and the servant would pierce the ankle of the boy. He would tie it with a rope, and he would hang the boy upside down on top of a branch of a tree at the Mount Cithaeron, because Mount Cithaeron is an area where it is dreaded to everyone to go there, because it is fully flooded with wild beasts. And any boy who has been, any person who has been in Mount Cithaeron would be swallowed, or would be destroyed or bitten and consumed by the wild beasts roaming around in the Mount Cithaeron. So that is what the order given to the one of the slaves of Queen Jocasta. Right. So when this particular command has been executed at the Mount Cithaeron, there was a shepherd from the city of Corinth, which is on the other side of this particular mountain. So on the outskirts of the city of Thebes lies the Mount Cithaeron, and on the other side of the mountain there is another city called as the city of Corinth. Okay, right. Now when a shepherd has come there, rearing his sheep, he has found the baby who is being tied on top of the branch of a tree by the slave who has been sent by Queen Jocasta. And when the shepherd has seen this thing to happen, he has come and asked this particular the slave, like, what he is doing. The slave has said that it was the queen's order to kill the baby, so I have punctured the ankle and I have tied the ankle with the help of a rope, and as per my orders given by Queen Jocasta, I am just tying the boy upside down on top of the tree branch so that he would be eaten away by beast. Now the particular shepherd is very kind-hearted, so he doesn't want a small infant who is still naive to be eaten away by the beast. So the particular shepherd has said, like, I want to save this particular child, so I am taking him away from this particular mountain. You kindly tell your queen that the command has been executed and the child has been killed in Mount Cithaeron, and don't reveal this to anyone. I am taking this child away to the Corinth city. So as per the fate of the child, which is not to be died at the Mount Cithaeron, this particular shepherd has freed the child of this particular rope. He has treated the wound which has been there in the ankle by the puncturing of a needle, and he has taken the child to Corinth, and he is trying to bring the child up. And since he being a shepherd, he is not having much money to bring the child up, he gave away the child to his king and queen. The city of Corinth was ruled by King Polybus and Queen Periboia, who is also called as Merope. Okay, but the sad thing is that the King Polybus and Queen Merope are not blessed with the children. So there should be some royalty in their family to take away the throne when the king dies away. So they were very worried that they are not having a child. So this shepherd thought to give the child to this King Polybus and Queen Merope so that they can bring the child on their own. So this has been, the child has been handed over to the King Polybus and Queen Merope, and they are very happy to receive the child from the hands of the shepherd, and they have decided to bring the child as their own. Okay, and seeing the swollen ankles of the particular child, the King Polybus and Queen Merope has named the child as Oedipus. The word Oedipus means a swollen foot. And why the foot is swollen? Because of two reasons. One, the ankle has been pierced away and it has been hung by tightly tying a rope on the ankle and left it suspended on the branch of a tree. So because of these two reasons, because of insult happened at the ankle, the child's foot is swollen. And because of this reason, the child has been named as Oedipus. The word Oedipus comes from edema on the prefix, which means a swelling. And the word, the suffix pus comes from octopus, means 8 feet. So here, this word Oedipus, it's a combination of two words, edema and octopus, which means swollen foot. Okay. When Oedipus reaches adolescence, his father is deciding the boy for a coronation. And when the coronation was about to happen, someone in the city of Corinth calls him a bastard and says that he is adopted. So he wants to know his parentage now. He goes again to his so-called adopted parents, King Polybus and Queen Merope, and ask them regarding his parentage. And they said not to give much importance to his parentage right now, because if someone calls you a bastard or adopted son, that doesn't mean that you are not ours. So don't probe much into it. You are our son. Like that is what the words Oedipus heard from his adopted parents, King Polybus and Queen Merope, because they don't want him to know the reality behind his parentage. Now he was undressed. He wants to know his parentage. He was very curious about knowing his parentage. So that is why Oedipus has decided now to leave Corinth and proceeds towards the Delphi to meet the oracle of Delphi at the temple of Apollo, the same oracle who has predicted his fate to his real biological parents, King Laius and Queen Jocasta. So he is now proceeding his journey towards the Delphi at the temple of Apollo to find out regarding his real parentage. Okay, now seeing Oedipus, the oracle recognized immediately that the boy is still alive and his fate still holds true, and she has given the same prophecy which she has shared with King Laius and Queen Jocasta to Oedipus now. Now what did she say? The same prophecy, you know already. What is it? That he would kill his own father and he would sleep with his mother, and the land which he is going to rule in the near future would be thrown to plague and drought and other kind of poverty. Okay, so desperate to avoid this foretold fate, Oedipus went to Thebes instead of returning back to Corinth, because according to Oedipus, his real parents are King Polybus and Queen Merope, and they are residing in the city of Corinth. So if he is going to return back to the city of Corinth, his fate might come true one day or the other. He might kill his own father, that is King Polybus, and he might marry even his own mother, that is the Queen Merope or Queen Periboia. So to prevent this particular fate from happening, he has turned his direction in the opposite direction. He has proceeded his journey towards the Thebes rather than going to Corinth. And as you know, that Thebes is the city in which he was born. Okay, now he's going back to his place of birth. Okay, so on the way to Thebes, Oedipus runs into an old man who is King Laius himself, driving a wagon at a place where the 3 roads cross. Actually, in the story, they won't reveal that the old man is King Laius himself. So when Oedipus is going towards the Thebes, there will be on the outskirts of this Thebes city, there is a place whereby the 3 roads meet, and one of the road is very narrow. And on one side from Delphi towards Thebes, Oedipus is coming, and on the other side from Thebes towards Delphi, an old man who is driving a wagon with 5 of his henchmen are coming on the opposite direction. So they both meet at the narrow road, and they both are at a war with each other, because Oedipus wants to travel forward, and whereas the old man wants to travel forward. So somehow one among the both should pay heed for the other one and should take back, so that their carriage turns forwards. But since they both are egoistic, they both run into a clash of words, which shortly had resulted in a war with each other. And since Oedipus is very young and having a good strength and vigor, he kills the old men, and among the 5 henchmen, 4 will be killed, 1 will be severely wounded. So only 1 survives the particular tragedy, and the remaining 4 henchmen with the old man dies away at the hands of the Oedipus. Okay, this happens at the narrow road whereby three roads meet. Right. So as you can see, this is an image of the Oracle of Delphi. The oracle tends to go into a trance by these fumigations of herbs, and after she gets into a trance, she used to tell the prophecy. This is how the scenario goes at the Oracle of Delphi. Right. When Oedipus returns to Thebes, the city's entrance was guarded by a sphinx. A sphinx is a mythical creature in ancient Greece, whereby the upper half of the body will be that of a female and the lower half of the body will be that of a lion, and it is entrusted with 2 wings. So it is a complex creature which has the features of all the 3: human being, half, the upper half of a female body, the lower half of a lion, and with a wing. So this is a mythical creature. Okay, and this particular sphinx is holding guard to the city of Thebes, and the sphinx is asking riddle to anyone who is trying to enter the city of Thebes. And when anyone is going to answer the riddle correctly, then the sphinx will let them alive to enter further into the city of Thebes. But if someone is going to tell the wrong answer, or who hesitates to answer the riddle put forward by sphinx, then the sphinx will kill the man and eat it away. So this is the pact or the terms and condition the sphinx imposes on to whomever is trying to enter the city of Thebes. Okay, now Oedipus, as the story goes, he is trying to enter the city of Thebes, whereby he is coming in confrontation with this particular sphinx. Now the sphinx is going to ask a riddle to Oedipus, and if Oedipus is going to answer, he will be let alone to enter into the city of Thebes. But if at all he is going to give the wrong answer, or if he hesitates to answer the riddle, then he would be eaten alive by this particular sphinx. Okay, now what is the riddle the sphinx is going to ask? The sphinx asked the Oedipus that this particular riddle: in the morning I have 4 legs, at noon I have 2 legs, and when the twilight comes I have 3 legs. Among all the creatures, it is the one and only creature that can change its number of legs, but the greater the number, the lower its speed and strength. Who am I? This is the riddle the sphinx is going to ask Oedipus. So what was the riddle? I will make you hear one more time. In the morning, I have 4 legs. At the noon, I have 2 legs. And when the twilight comes, I have 3 legs. Among all the creatures, it is the only one that can change the number of legs, but the greater the number, the lower will be the speed and strength. Who am I? This is the riddle put forward to Oedipus by the sphinx. Now Oedipus thinks for some time, and then he comes up with the answer. It's a human being. That's the answer for the riddle. Now sphinx now is shocked to hear the correct answer given forward by Oedipus, because none have ever answered the question correctly put forward by the riddle put forward by sphinx, and it has eaten everyone. Now Oedipus has given the correct answer, a human being. How come? You should see this morning, noon, and twilight as a metaphor. Okay, morning is the start of the day, noon is the midpoint or the highest peak of the day, and twilight is almost at the closing of the day or at the end of the day. So you take the day as the human being's life. Okay, morning will be the infant stage of the child as an infant. The afternoon, which is at the peak, will be at the middle age, and the night will be at the end of his age or end of his lifetime, that is at the older age. So if you put forward this metaphor in this manner, you get the answer. As an infant, the child crawls by all the 4, 2 arms and 2 legs. So the answer to the question, in the morning I have 4 legs, is the infant which crawls by all 4. At the noon I have 2. When the man is reaching the middle age, almost after adolescence, adults, that is the time where he starts to walk in 2 legs, bipedal. So that's the answer for the question. At noon I have 2. And when the twilight comes, I have 3. Means almost at the end of the age, the old people, since they will be finding difficult to walk, will be taking a cane or else a walking stick. So they have 3 legs here, 2 legs of their own and 1 with the help of the walking stick or the cane. So where by the answer to the riddle comes that the twilight I become 3. Okay, and further you understand the question. Among all the creatures, it is the only one that can change its number of legs. Yes, of course, human beings can able to take this particular 3 legs, 4 at the infancy, 2 at the middle age, and at the end of the lifetime, walking with the 3 legs. That's 1 from the walking stick and 2 from their own legs. So among all the creatures, human being is the only one who is bestowed with all the 3 options. And as the number of legs advances, the speed and the strength reduces. So that is what happens. In old age, people are not as energetic as or having as much strength as that of their middle age. And since walking on 3 legs is difficult, means 2 legs with the walking stick, the speed of walking tends to reduce. So that is how the answer turns up as the human being. So after hearing this answer, the Sphinx, as it promised, let the Oedipus enter the city of Thebes, and the Sphinx tries to suicide itself by jumping off a cliff and killing itself. So here you can see the city of Thebes, whereby Oedipus is coming in confrontation with the Sphinx, who is asking a question. You can see the upper half is that of the female, the lower half is that of a lion, and it is having 2 wings. So this is the Sphinx who is asking the riddle to the Oedipus. So as promised, the Sphinx killed itself by jumping off a cliff at the city of Thebes and welcomed Oedipus, who was offered to marry the queen Jocasta, who is a widow, and rule the Thebes under the kingship. So what happens, since the death of King Laius, Thebes is not having any king to rule away the kingdom. So Queen Jocasta's brother, who is Creon, has given a statement in such a way that whoever is going to kill the Sphinx and enter the city of Thebes will be given an offer to marry his sister and take the Thebes as a king and will be ruled by him. So this was the offer Creon has given to the citizens of Thebes. And since Oedipus has succeeded in killing the Sphinx and entering the city of Thebes, he is given the offer to marry Creon's sister, that is Queen Jocasta, who is now a widow, and take over the throne as the king and rule the Thebes. So mind it that Oedipus did not know that he is going to marry his own mother, because he is unaware. According to him, his mother is Queen Merope or Peruvia, who is ruling the city of Corinth. Right? Years passed while Oedipus was the king of Thebes. He has 4 children by Jocasta. So Oedipus and Jocasta has 4 children, 2 sons and 2 daughters. The sons are Polynices and Eteocles. The 2 daughters are Antigone and Ismene. Eventually, the city was infected by plague. So as the prophecy has come, what does the prophecy say? The land which will be ruled by Oedipus will be infected with plague. Now what is happening? After he has given forth 2 children, and when he is ruling the city of Thebes successfully, the city has now come infected by a plague. Now people are dying away by the plague, which is a great epidemic, Black Death. So the people have come under the care of Oedipus, and they are requesting him to stop this plague at whatever cost possible. So as a wise king, Oedipus has ordered his brother-in-law Creon to consult the Oracle of Delphi to find out the solution for this particular plague, which has been taking the people's life in a huge toll. Creon returned with the news that the plague was caused by the unpunished murderer who killed Laius, and the plague will only end when the murderer is caught and brought to justice. This is what the Oracle of Delphi has given a prophecy to Creon. So what did it say? It says that the murderer who killed King Laius is roaming inside the city of Thebes freely. Unless and until that murderer is brought into justice, this plague will never vanish. So this is what the prophecy the Oracle of Delphi has given to Creon. So this Creon has intimated to the king Oedipus as per his instruction. So Oedipus is now cursing the murderer of King Laius, because of whom a plague has been running in this particular kingdom. And Oedipus vows to find the murderer and curses him for the plague that he has caused. Now Oedipus summons the blind prophet Tiresias, who is another prophesier in the Delphi at the temple of Apollo. Why? Because Tiresias is a soothsayer, he is blind, and he is bestowed with the powers that he can able to predict, or he can able to find out a criminal who has never been brought into justice or who is difficult to find. So Oedipus summons the blind prophet Tiresias, who claims to know the answers for his questions. But Tiresias refuses to speak, lamenting his ability to see the truth when the truth brings nothing but pain. Tiresias advises Oedipus to abandon his search, but when the enraged Oedipus accuses Tiresias of complicity in the murder, Tiresias is provoked into telling the king the truth, that the king Oedipus himself is the murderer whom he is seeking. So what Oedipus says, Oedipus is saying that Tiresias is planning a conspiracy together with his brother-in-law Creon to blame, to bring a blame or to bring a shame upon the royalty, blaming that this particular Oedipus is the one who killed the king Laius. So this is what Oedipus thinks, and he says that Tiresias is planning some conspiracy against him together with his brother-in-law Creon to get the throne back. Oedipus dismisses this particular prophecy of Tiresias that Oedipus himself is the murderer for King Laius, and he accuses the prophet of being corrupted by the ambitious Creon in an attempt to undermine him and take away the throne, so that Creon will again rule the Thebes. Okay. Now Tiresias leaves away, but before leaving, he puts the last riddle to the King Oedipus, that when you are going to solve this particular riddle, you will get to know who has murdered the King Laius. Now what did the riddle Tiresias has given to the King Oedipus? Tiresias says that the murderer of Laius will turn out to be both the father and brother to his own children and the son of his own wife. You listen to the riddle again, you'll get to know. The riddle says that the murderer of King Laius will turn out to be both the father and brother to his own children and the son of his own wife. Okay, this is what the riddle Tiresias has given to King Oedipus, and he says that once you find the murderer, once you solve the particular riddle, you will find out who has murdered King Laius. Okay, and he says this particular riddle, and Tiresias leaves away. Now what happens? Oedipus's wife Jocasta tells him that he should not take the words of prophets and oracles seriously, as they no longer hold the magic powers that they once had, because many years ago she and King Laius received a prophecy which never came to be true. The prophecy said that King Laius would be killed by his own son, but as everyone knows, Laius was actually killed by a group of bandits at the crossroads on the way to Delphi. So Jocasta has never known that his husband is actually killed by Oedipus himself. The words were as such that the king has been killed by a group of bandits when he was on his way from Thebes to Delphi on the crossroads whereby the three roads meet at the narrow lane. A group of bandits have killed the King Laius. This is what has been rumor circulated in the city of Thebes. So Jocasta has thought that the king was been murdered by a group of bandits or a group of thieves. Now, as soon as Queen Jocasta has mentioned the word crossroads at the outskirts of city of Thebes, Oedipus begins to think that in the past he has murdered someone on his way to enter inside the city of Thebes at the narrow lane whereby the three roads meets, and he is worried whether Tiresias' accusations may actually have been true. So when he has been submerged or absorbed in this particular thought regarding the tragedy that happened at the outskirts of Thebes, a messenger from Corinth arrives with the news that King Polybus, who is the ruler of Corinth, has died away. Okay, a messenger from Corinth arrives with the news that the death of the King Polybus, who is ruling the city of Corinth, has met a death, and it is Oedipus who should come to Corinth to take away the next heir as the throne to the city of Corinth. Now Oedipus shocks everyone with his apparent happiness at the news, as he sees that this is a proof that he can never kill his father, because according to Oedipus, his father is King Polybus, and since King Polybus has met with his demise, Oedipus has thought that, as Jocasta has said, that the prophecies have never come true, because if that would have been true, then it should be Oedipus who had killed the King Polybus, which has not happened. Although he fears that he may somehow commit the incest with his mother Merope, because she is still alive and half of the prophecy has not come true. That means Oedipus has not killed his own father, but the other half, that he will marry his mother, might come true, because Merope is still alive and she is in the city of Corinth. So he is now saying the messenger that he could not come back to Corinth because he fears that he might marry his own mother. Seeing this or hearing this, the messenger says that don't worry, Oedipus, this won't come true, because you are the adopted son to King Polybus and Queen Merope. You are not their original child. Okay. So this is what the messenger says. And it turns that the messenger who has come from Corinth to say this particular news is the shepherd who has saved the child at the Mount Cithaeron and has taken him to bring him up and hand over to the King Polybus and Queen Merope, who are childless. Right. So the messenger turns out to be the same shepherd who has looked for an abandoned child, which he later took to Corinth and gave to King Polybus for adoption. Okay, and it was the shepherd who even witnessed the murder of King Laius at the outskirts of this particular city of Thebes at the crossroads. Now Jocasta is beginning to realize the truth and desperately begs Oedipus to stop asking further questions. But Oedipus presses the shepherd, threatening him with torture and execution, until finally the truth comes out that the child he gave away for adoption to Polybus was Laius' own son, and that Jocasta has given the baby to her slave to be secretly killed in Mount Cithaeron for fear that the prophecy might come true, that is, King Laius would be killed by his own son. Okay, now the truth unfolds. With the truth now finally revealed, Oedipus curses himself and his tragic destiny and stumbles off as he found the answer to Tiresias' riddle. That is, Oedipus is the son and husband to Queen Jocasta, and Oedipus is brother as well as father to his children. Okay, so the answer turns out to be the King Oedipus himself, and the Tiresias' riddle has proven that King Oedipus himself is the murderer of King Laius, who killed his own father, and after killing his father has married his own mother. Now a servant enters the chamber and explains that Queen Jocasta, after suspecting the truth, had ran into the palace bedroom and hanged herself there, because for the shame that she has married her own son unknowingly. Okay. Now Oedipus enters deliriously, calling for a sword so that he could kill himself, and raging through the house until he comes upon Jocasta's body. In final despair, Oedipus takes 2 long gold pins from her dress, from her brooch, and then plunges into his own eyes, blinding himself. So Oedipus does not want to look at the world whereby he who has been praised as a wise king will be now called as a incestuous, who has committed an incestuous act which is punishable. So he doesn't have the will to see face to face on the eyes of his citizens. So for that reason, he has plunged his eyes with the golden pins from the brooch of her mother or wife, Queen Jocasta, and he blinded himself. Now blind, Oedipus begs to be exiled as soon as possible and asks Creon to look after his 2 daughters, Antigone and Ismene. Okay, so that is about the tale of Oedipus. Now you can see this particular drawing whereby the king Oedipus is taking the 2 gold pins from the body of Queen Jocasta and trying to blind his eyes. So this is a art which captures the blinding moment of King Oedipus with the help of 2 long gold pins from the brooch or the wardrobe of the robe worn by his mother or the Queen Jocasta. Now that is about the tale. I hope everyone understood the tale now. That completes the first session. Now we are going into what is this Oedipus complex in psychology. Okay, right. Now, who introduced the term Oedipus complex? The concept of Oedipus complex was first introduced by Dr. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, in the year 1899 in his book, The Interpretation of Dreams, although he did not formally begin using the term until the year 1910. Freud conceived the idea of Oedipus complex in 1908 when treating a patient who is a 5-year-old boy named Hans for his phobia for horses. Okay, he has a excessive, uncomfortable dread or a fear of seeing horses, and he was brought to Sigmund Freud for treating his phobia for horses. And after hearing his case and after understanding the case history, now Freud, instead of calling him Hans, has started calling him as little Oedipus. Means he is somewhat having a mother and father issues. The concept became increasingly important as he continued to develop the theory of psychosexual development. That is one of the theories of psychoanalysis regarding the development of personality. Right? Now, what differentiates the psychology is that every school of psychology, whether it be a behavioristic school or a humanistic school or a psychoanalysis or analytical psychology, or it may be a Mason's theory, whatever it may be, the different schools of psychology tries to explain the personality in different perspective. So here, psychoanalysis have tried to explain the personality of an individual with the help of one of its strong theories, that is the theory of psychosexual development. So in Freud's theory, a children progresses through a series of stages of psychosexual development to develop into a personality. At each stage, the subconscious mind is centered on a pleasure related to a certain part of the body, which is called as the erogenous zone. Okay, and these stages are given as under. These stages will be occupying a predominant part of the life of the child from certain age to certain age. So the 5 stages of psychosexual development includes the oral stage, anal stage, phallic stage, latency stage, and the genital stage. And at each of these stages, which the child will come across in their development, there will be each stage having one pleasure giving zone or one pleasure related zone in a part of the human body, which is called as the erogenous zone. So in the oral stage, it is the mouth whereby the erogenous zone is situated. When it comes to the anal phase, the erogenous zone shifts from mouth towards the anus. In the phallic stage, the erogenous zone is centered around the genital region. And in the latency stage, the erogenous zone is not present. That is why the child looks towards the environment to learn from the environment. So there is no erogenous zone in the latency phase. And in the genital stage, just like the phallic stage, the genitals again becomes the center for the pleasure seeking zone. So what is an erogenous zone? Erogenous zone is the part of the human body whereby upon its stimulation, there can be a pleasure or a pain or both, which can be expected to arise when it is being stimulated. So the oral stage lasts from the birth of the child to 1.5 years. The anal stage lasts from 1.5 years to 3 years. The phallic stage happens from 3 to 5 years. Latency phase happens from 5 to 12 years. And genital phase happens from 12 years till adulthood. And there are principal tasks which is being executed at each stage. At oral stage, the principal task is weaning them from the breastfeeding. And in the anal stage, you have the principal task, that's the toilet training or potty training. And in the phallic phase comes the identity of the sex, that is sexual identity. And in the latency phase, there will be learning from the external environment, that is social communication and skills. And last, the genital phase, whereby the principal task is to desire to have an intercourse with the opposite sex because of the hormonal rise for the moles and for both males and females respectively. So these are the 5 stages of psychosexual development according to Sigmund Freud, whereby each stage will be having the age period at particular time, whereby the erogenous zone starts shifting from one area to another area, and there will be principal tasks being executed at each stages of development. So these 5 psychosexual stages of development are marked with conflict and developmental tasks, that need to be mastered in order to move successfully to the next stage. So each stage there will be a conflict, okay, and this conflict has to be healthily being resolved, and healthy resolving of the conflict at each particular stage is going to give progression to the next stage. But if suppose the conflict arising in each and every stage is not being successfully or skillfully mastered or resolved, that leads to something called as a fixation, which happens at that particular stage, and which may play a major role in the personality of the further development. So during the course of growth, a child becomes aware of certain areas of his or her body. These are known as erogenous zone, and they can cause pleasure or pain or both. While describing the child development, Freud stated that the first 5 years of life are crucial in determining the adult personality when the child grows up. Okay, so you can see here the Oedipus complex, the explanation as per psychoanalysis, whereby you can see the volcano of a libido which is erupting for the lava, giving rise to several stages of psychosexual development. That is the first phase. As you can see, this is the oral phase, whereby the mouth is the erogenous zone. Second comes the anal phase, whereby the anus is the erogenous zone. Third is the phallic phase of identity of the sexual identity. Fourth is the latency phase, whereby you don't have erogenous zone, but instead it is lying dormant. And fifth is the genital phase, whereby the erogenous zone again comes to the genitals with a strong desire to have intercourse with the opposite sex. Okay, so this is the psychosexual stages of Sigmund Freud as depicted in the diagram. Right? Freud suggested that Oedipus complex played an important role in the phallic stage of psychosexual development. So if you ask me where the Oedipus complex comes among these 5 stages, it comes in the 3rd stage of the phallic stage of psychosexual development. So what happens during this stage? The child develops a sexual attraction to his or her opposite sex parent and hostility towards the same sex parent. So accordingly, a boy wishes to possess his own mother and replace his father, whom the child views as the rival for the mother's affection. So now the boy is now becoming possessed towards his mother. The boy thinks that the whole and soul of the mother's affection should be centered on him. It should not be shared with any other one. Okay, and now who is the other opposite gender who can share the love and affection of the mother? That is his father. So he views his father as a rival because he is already having a place to share his mother's affection. So he wants to replace his father, whom he views as a rival, and he thinks that he is the one to get all the affection or centeredness of his mother. So he becomes too possessive towards his mother. Freud believed that successful completion of this stage involved identifying with the same-sex parent, which ultimately would lead to developing a mature sexual identity. So how do you resolve this conflict in this particular stage of Oedipus, the phallic stage? The successful resolving of this particular stage involves that the boy should start viewing his father not as a rival, but as a role model or an ideal or an icon, in order to attain his mother's affection, or in order to attain the affection of his mother. What is making the mother attracted towards the father? It is because of the traits that his father carries with him. So if suppose the boy has to get the same attraction as his father is getting from the mother, he should start becoming as an ideal, or he should keep the father as an ideal, and he should try to get the traits what his father has attained, so that in future he can get a wife who is having the qualities of the mother, who can able to shower the love and affection just like his mother is showering towards him. So this is how the conflict has been resolved, that you should never view the father as a rival, rather you view him as an ideal, so that you can able to develop the traits as that of your own father. Okay, to get a better wife who possesses the traits of your mother. That means traits of the mother means showing unconditioned love towards his child or towards him. Right? So now how do you identify the signs of Oedipus complex developing in the child? Because the child will never say this from their own words. As I told you, Oedipus complex is suppressed or repressed inside the subconscious mind, or it is remaining unconscious. Now how do you able to understand the unconscious thoughts and feelings? Only by the behavior exhibited by the patient, or else only by revealing what has been coming in the dreams. Because dreams is an unhindered space whereby the suppressed desires can be exhibited outside without any harm. So you can able to understand the repressed desires of the id or the unconscious thoughts only by the behavior and by the dreams or by the body language. Now, how do you understand the Oedipus complex in children? You can able to assess the signs, perceive the signs of the children. You can understand. What is the signs? Becoming overly attached to one parent. That is a gluey or a clingy behavior. Next is a fixation on one parent. Third is a hostility or anger towards the other parent, that is on the same-sex parent. Jealousy of one parent. Becoming angry or jealous when the rival parent shows affection towards the desired parent. Possessiveness of one parent, usually the one of the opposite gender, trying to get the attention of the desired parent. So these are the characteristic traits whereby you can able to understand the signs of Oedipus complex in children. I will give you some practical examples. You see here, the first symptom of Oedipus complex is the father should not hug or kiss your mom. What are the examples? A hug or kiss is normal between the couples, but when their physical intimation makes you jealous, then you can suspect that there is an Oedipus complex in the child. Second symptom is desire to sleep in bed with the mother. This means not to have a sexual intercourse as everyone thinks, but it is just to lie in the bed with the mother so that they will be cuddling with each other. A desire to simply sleep or lie next to your mother when the father is not there and does not want to give back your position next to your mom even after his return. So if your mother and father, if the couples are sleeping together, the child would come in between them, make a space, and will be sleeping in between them, tightly holding on to the mother. Okay, that means they are trying to make a space between the mother and father. So this is the desire to sleep in bed with mother. Next is admire her. You admire the way your mother walks, how she talks, how she moves, how she dresses, or how she acts. You praise her constantly and you adore her too extravagantly. So this is the admiring of her. Last is behaving or acting like father when he is not around. That is imitating like a father. You might have seen children who make up her, who dresses themselves as their father. They wear spectacles, they comb their hair, they try to shave even though they are not having a beard or mustache. They wear the coat and suit like that of their father. They wear a tie, they take a briefcase, they say, bye-bye honey, I'm going home, I'm going office. They take a car key or a bike key. So they behave like the father. Means what? They are trying to make themselves, or they are trying to make them like the father. So dressing up like father, showing mannerisms and behavioral traits like father in front of your mother. This is one example from day-to-day life whereby you can suspect signs of Oedipus complex. Okay, right. Now how it is resolved? At each stage of psychosexual development, the children faces a developmental conflict that must be resolved in order to form a healthy adult personality. In order to develop into a successful adult with a healthy identity, the child must identify with the same-sex parent in order to resolve the conflict of the phallic stage. So there are three factors which comes to help resolve the Oedipus complex. First is the influence of the id and the ego. Freud suggested that while the primal id in the boy wants to eliminate the father, whom he considers as a rival, the more realistic ego knows that the father is much stronger than the child. So this is the influence of id and the ego. So id is known as the pleasure principle, ego is known as the reality principle, and superego is known as the morality principle. These three are called as the components of psyche. Okay, right. Next is the castration anxiety. According to Freud, the boy then experiences what is called as the castration anxiety, which is a fear of both literal and figurative emasculation. Freud believed that as the child becomes aware of the physical differences between males and females, he assumes that the female's penis has been removed and that his father will also castrate him as a punishment for desiring his mother. He thinks that when the boy will exhibit his desire towards his mother's attraction, and when the boy is going to exhibit his rivalry against the father being more powerful than him, might someday cut his penis off and make him a female. So this he fears, that is called as the castration anxiety. And that is one reason how the Oedipus complex gets resolved. It creates an anxiety within the boy so that he leaves the idea off. Next is the emergence of superego. In order to resolve the conflict, the defense mechanism known as the identification kicks in. It is at this point that the superego is formed. The superego becomes a sort of the inner moral authority an internalization of the father figure that strives to suppress the urges of the id and make the ego act upon these idealistic standards. Outside influences, including social norms, religious teachings, and other cultural influences, help contribute to the repression of the Oedipal complex. And remember, that is the superego that has made the Oedipus blind his own eyes. If superego has not developed, he would be roaming very freely on the society. It is because of the superego that he is feeling a guilt that he has committed a big crime by marrying his own mom and by becoming a brother and father to his own children. And because of that only, he is trying to blind his own eyes with the help of the needle. Okay, right. It is out of this that the child's conscious emerges, or the overall sense of right and wrong. In some cases, repressed feelings could also result in sense of a guilt in the particular child in the near future. So there is a dialogue from the film 𝐀𝐻𝐭, which is an Indian film released in 1969, whereby a dialogue goes between the hospital's head, Dr. 𝐀𝐻𝐿 and to a nurse named Radha. Okay, I have taken this particular dialogue because it fits very clearly with how the Oedipus complex is resolving, and that's why. And here the dialogue goes in such a way that in infancy, when a baby opens his eyes, it moves around and becomes familiar with its surrounding. After that, in childhood, he looks at himself in the mirror and feels happy, and for the first time, he falls in love with himself, which is called as the narcissistic state. After this, he learns to love his mother, which is called the Oedipus complex. When he realizes that it is not acceptable to love one's mother, then he reluctantly removes her from this place and looks for this kind of faith for the face of this motherly affection in his lover. So this is how the Oedipus complex resolves, and next in the genital phase, he is finding an opposite gendered female as that of his lover, whom he is trying to marry and later bring forth children. So this is how the Oedipus complex gets resolved. So this is a dialogue from the film 𝐀𝐻𝐭, whereby a dialogue goes between the Colonel Sahib and Nurse Radha, whereby the Colonel Sahib is narrating this particular dialogue, stating her there are different phases of life, whereby at each phase there will be several stages coming up and how that is getting resolved. Right? You have to underline this point. When he realizes that it is not acceptable to love one's mother, that means social norm is restricting him, that you cannot love your own mother, you cannot be able to shower your own affections towards the mother in the sexual way, then he reluctantly removes her face from this place for this kind of faith and affection, and it is now replaced by the motherly affection in his lover. Right? So this is the dialogue. Now, what happens if Oedipus complex is unresolved? When conflicts at psychosexual stages are not resolved, a fixation at that point in development can result. Freud suggested that a boy who does not deal with this conflict effectively can become mother fixated. You have the cross rubric here, mother fixation. Remember this. So whenever there is going to be a fixation, when there is not going to be a healthy resolution of the conflict in each stage, there happens a fixation at that particular point. So if the conflict arising in the phallic stage is not getting resolved, then there happens a fixation at this particular stage, which is called as the mother fixation. When someone says that a person has an Oedipus complex, it often describes an unhealthy attachment or dependence on their opposite sex parent in adulthood. An unresolved Oedipus complex can lead to challenges in achieving mature adult romantic relationships and conflicts with the same sex competitiveness in the near future when a personality develops. So what are the identification in adults? Oedipus complex, signs of identification: unexplainable sense of dislike towards the rival parent, preoccupation with the desired parent's activities, wardrobe, or lifestyle, strong sense of possessiveness or protectiveness towards the desired parent, selecting adult romantic partners that resemble the desired parent. So these are the four signs you get to notice in adults who have an Oedipus complex or mother fixation, who has not healthily resolved the phallic stage of psychosexual development. I will show you some practical examples here, just like I have told for the children. So one practical day-to-day examples for Oedipus complex in adults is mother is your priority. Whether near or far, you need to think about her, meet her, talk to her over phone every day. She becomes more important than your wife or your children. So giving prioritization towards your mother, leaving your children and your wife aside, is one of the signs of Oedipus complex. Getting into verbal battles or conflict with your father. Since you consider your father as a rival because of the fixation happened, Getting into verbal conflicts frequently, like shouting or threatening him to stay away from your mom, is one of the signs of an Oedipus complex in adults. Third is the sexual impotence. Every time you are sexually aroused, the image of your mother crops up in your mind, which had to be repressed, and continual repression of sexual desire can lead to impotence. So whenever you involve in any sexual intercourse with your wife or your lover, every time when you're sexually aroused, the image of your mom crops up in your mind. So which is a wrong thing. And when you're trying to repress it again and again, that can lead to a psychological impotency. That is called as the impotency, sexual impotence. Having unstable relationship, jumping from one relationship to another, difficult to commit to one girl. The very thought of sharing a physical bonding with another girl is unacceptable to you. So you cannot, let yourself to share your love and affection to some other girl, because you still think that the only person who is fit enough to share all your love and affection is your mother. So you think that it's a crime or it's a sin that another girl should share all your love and affection. So that is the having unstable relationship. You need a love, but not an everlasting love. Now next is attracted to older people. We usually say in college as anti-hero. Whenever a boy is getting affectionate or getting attracted towards some female who is much older or mature than you, you tend to make fun of him, calling him an anti-hero. It is not A-N-T-I, it is A-U-N-T-Y, anti-hero, right? So getting attracted to older people. Examples include you are insanely attracted to any woman who is older and has your mother's traits. You try to seek their attention. You try to get romantically involved with them. Okay, so this is getting attracted to older people, the anti-hero type. All these symptoms are nothing but an unconscious wish of being close to a mother figure, a symbol of trust, faith, and security for the person throughout the life. So all these indicates that you are having some kind of a Oedipus complex inside you. Any of these signs which I have stated here. Now, to make things more interesting, let us see some of the examples of Oedipus complex in real life. That means in the films. There are some films in Indian as well as in Hollywood whereby Oedipus complex is shown for people to understand what it is. One of the films, I have included both. I have not given much films. I have given the names. I have explained very few, because here we have the delegates from foreign countries as well as India. So to do justice to both, I have included both the films from Hollywood as well as Bollywood, so that people will come to know what is Oedipus complex through the movies. I have given some suggestions even. You can get to know it after watching these films, and you do a homework trying to find out where the Oedipus complex lies. Now, one film I will explain you whereby Oedipus complex is explained is one of the grand old films of Indian cinema. That's Mother India. Okay, it was directed by Mehboob Khan in 1957, shortly after the independence. The film is the story of a poverty-stricken village woman named Radha, who, in the absence of her husband, struggles to raise her two sons Ram and Birju. She has also learned to survive against the usurious moneylender. In the film, there are clear Oedipal feelings between Radha and her son Birju. In National Identity in Indian Popular Cinema, 1947 to 1987, Sumita S. Chakravarti writes, Birju, who takes gambling and thieving and ultimately to highway robbery, is actually indulging in a form of self-aggression to protest what he sees as the withdrawal of his mother's affections. His nostalgia for her softer and nurturing side, as also his Oedipal longings is expressed by his obsessive attachment to her bracelets. The film sublimates Birju's incestuous longings for the mother by presenting the motivation for Birju's action as anger that his mother's bracelets have been pawned to the moneylender. So this is where the Oedipus feelings happens between Birju and his mother Radha. Okay. In the film, Radha's husband was named Shyam, a name for Krishna, and her rebellious son was named Birju, another name for Krishna, which also could be read as the symbol for Oedipal relation. You can see Radha's husband name is Shyam, which is a name of Lord Krishna, and among the sons of Radha, one of the son is named Birju, who is having Oedipal feelings towards his mother Radha, and Birju is another name for Krishna. So here, Birju is trying to replace his father Shyam, okay, which also could be read as a symbol of an Oedipal relation. It was also the case that the actors playing Radha, that is Nargis, and Birju Sunil that actually got married in the real life. Okay, that's the irony in the film. Sunil Dutt married Nargis in the later years. Okay, who has played the role of son and mother. Right, that was one example. There are many such films. Given the titles, you can watch it and learn the Oedipus feelings as I have narrated in this particular example. So one is Mother India, which I have told you. Second is the film Khamoshi, the dialogue what I have read to you in 1969. Next is the film called Diwar in 1975 released. Shashi Kapoor and you have Amitabh Bachchan in the film. Next you have Trishul 1978, Highway 2014, Haider 2014, which is again the Bollywood interpretation of the film called Hamlet. Okay, next is Heartless, filmed by Shekhar Suman in 2014. Shivai, presenting with Ajay Devgan in the film in the year 2016. Haramkhor, where you have Nawazuddin Siddiqui in the year 2017. All these films have Oedipus complex shades delivered in the film at one point or the other. If you watch the film, you'll get to know better. Right? Now coming to the Hollywood films. So Oedipus complex in Hollywood films has been interpreted in several films. I'll give you one classical example, my favorite, that is Psycho, the film by Alfred Hitchcock, which is a crime thriller film. So Alfred Hitchcock's revolutionary psychological thriller horror Psycho has a radical portrayal of sex, violence and perversion with unexpected twist and turn in the film. Marion Crane, Janet Leigh, is a woman on the run with around $40,000 in stolen cash. Hardly an innocent girl, but she stole it from a creep and desperately needed it. She settles down for the night at the Bates Motel, whereby she is greeted by the proprietor Norman Bates, who is played by Anthony Perkins. The viewers can understand that there is something fundamentally wrong with Norman from his overheard discussions with his unseen mother and his habit of peeping, that is voyeurism. But despite that, he still somehow manages to evoke sympathy and be likable by others. Trapped with his mother inside Bates' mansion, Norman hardly socialized with anybody else, and therefore had no outlet for his repressed sexual instincts, which grew out of his abnormal relationship with his mother, leaving him unable to direct these feelings towards someone else. That is the Oedipus complex. Instead, his jealousy of his mother and her partner was lashed out at them, and just as he was jealous of her, he expects his mother to be jealous of him, leaving a building body count of girls he encounters behind him. So here you can see Norman Bates, who is lying on the lap of his dead mother, whom he still preserves in his apartment. And she is Norma Bates. He is Norman Bates, she is Norma Bates, the mother of Norman. Okay, so this is one film which is a crime horror, as you can see in Hollywood film Psycho. Right. Next film, which is a very comedy film, which is called as the film Grown Ups. With this, we'll complete the examples. This I will say you. In 2010, an American comedy film Grown Ups is about 5 middle-aged pals who reunite at a lake house to mourn over the loss of their beloved junior basketball coach and rediscover the joys of being as a kid. There are two characters in the movie with shades of Oedipus complex in them. One is Rob Hillard, played by Rob Schneider. Second is Eric Lemonsoff, played by Kevin James. Now in this, you can see Rob Hillard, played by Rob Schneider. Rob is portrayed as a 3 times divorced man. You see, unstable relationships here. Who is currently married to Gloria, a woman who is 30 years older than Rob. Can you see the signs here? He is 3 times divorced, means he is having unstable relationship. And second, he is married to a woman who is 30 years older than Rob. That means attraction towards the older elderly woman. So this is the signs of Oedipus complex in Rob Hillard, the comedy play film called as the Grown Ups. Second is Eric Lemonsoff, played by Kevin James. Eric is portrayed as a sexy and naturally talented who loves his mother very much and will do anything for her. Eric's love towards his mother is shown to be greater than his wife Sally and 2 kids, Donna and Bean. So in this film, he gives priority towards his mother, leaving his wife and children away, which is again one of these symptom of a sign of an Oedipus complex in adults. So I gave them these 2 examples whereby in one single film, you can see 2 characters exhibiting Oedipus complex, but at a different signs. Okay, and other films in Hollywood movies whereby Oedipus complex is being represented here is Mommy, Hallam Foe, Woody Allen's Oedipus Rex in 1989. It's an anthology film. Then you have Only God Forgives, The Grifters, I Am Glad My Mother Is Alive, and I Killed My Mother, and Harold and Maude. So these are some of the Hollywood films whereby Oedipus complex is being represented in the characters of the film. You do watch them and you understand how the Oedipus complex play a role. Now, whether Oedipus complex is only a theoretical part, whether it is present only in the real life or in the cinemas, or is it just a theory? I've done some research and found out that Oedipus complex do exist in real life, although rare, but yet it is there. I'll give you one example. Oedipus complex in real life. You can see here Kim West, who is 51 years old, the lady, was just 19 years when her son Ben Ford was born and was forced to give him for adoption within a week after birth. Nothing transpired for the next 30 odd years, but when Ford sent a letter to his biological mom in 2013, the two started forming a bond. The pair have been together for around 2 years now. They want to get married and are even trying for a baby together. So here is an Oedipus trying to marry his mother Jocasta. Okay, now instead he is not Oedipus, he is Ben Ford, and she is not Jocasta, she is Kim West. Okay, so here is a real event of Oedipus complex. I am in love with my son and I want to have his baby. Okay, so this is one example for Oedipus complex in real life. Now, whether it is there only in foreign countries, not in India, no, it is not the case. In India, there has been one case reported, and I have taken this clipping here. In Uttarakhnd's Baspur village, Indra Ram was married to Babli for 11 years. Babli had 2 sons from her first husband, who left when she married Indra Ram. Indra Ram and Babli had 3 children. Later, one of Babli's sons from her first marriage began visiting the house where Babli lived. Later, after suspecting a theft in the house, Indra Ram has launched a police complaint that Babli married one of her own sons, who is from the first husband, who often visited her, and they eloped together, taking 20,000 rupees left in the house of Indra Ram. Okay? So this is one case of an Oedipus complex reported in India. So it is not a rarity in only foreign countries, it is there even in India. Now, I think it is enough of the examples of real life events. Let us go to something called as Indian Oedipus complex. This is something new. What is Indian Oedipus complex? Indian psychologists have hypothesized a different version of the Oedipus complex called as the Indian Oedipus complex. In this model, instead of sons desiring mothers and overcoming fathers, and daughters loving their fathers and hating mothers, in India, most often we see fathers neglecting their sons and desiring their daughters, and mothers desiring their sons and ill-treating their daughters. So it is Oedipus complex but reversed way. The father preferring daughter, neglecting son, mother preferring son, neglecting daughter. The structure is same as that of the Freudian model, but the relationship of desire is reversed in Indian model. You can see these t-shirts, Papa ki pari hu main and Ma ka ladla. So this caricatures the Indian Oedipus complex. One more I'll give you. Daddy of a princess, daughter of a king. My son is perfect man. My mom is a perfect lady. This is being worn by moms and sons, dads and daughters. Okay. So these are all a depiction of what an Indian Oedipus complex looks like. Now coming to the most important part, Oedipus complex in homeopathy. That is the topic of the session. So in the previous slides, what we have studied, who is Oedipus? What is Oedipus complex? Why it has been given the name Oedipus complex? What are the psychosexual stages? What is Indian Oedipus complex? And how Oedipus complex has been interpreted in the films of Bollywood as well as Hollywood. And now coming to the last part, that is Oedipus complex in homeopathy. When you see, I'm just taking 10 minutes more. It is supposed to end by 3:30. Since the webinar has started a bit late for others to join, I will just take 10 minutes. I will complete the lecture altogether. So here is the last part, that is the rubric Oedipus complex. As you can see, the Oedipus complex can be located in the Synthesis Treasure Edition 2009, under which you have the 11 medicines: Calcarea carb, Calcarea mure, lactic acid, lac caninum, lac humanum, lacosis, magnesium lacticum, magnesium muriaticum, natrum lacticum, natrum muriaticum, plutonium nitricum. But if you see the new synthesis, that is synthesis Adonis, which is a recent one which is released in 2022, we have 3 more medicines included extra. So total we have 14 medicines. The 3 extra medicines are inclusive of the previous 11. We have Copaiba, Germanium Met and Hyoscyamus. Okay, And when you see under the Oedipus complex, we have the three cross references. One is clinging children in, child clings to the mother. Second is mother complex, and third is mother fixation. Right? When you are going to see the authority, the source author who has included this medicine, you can see Calcarea mure, lactic acid, 𝐊.𝐶𝐚𝐴, 𝐿.𝐻umanum has been included by 𝐸 Master, and the same have included magnesium lacticum, magnesium muriaticum, natrum lacticum, natrum muriaticum. Also, highest MS, which has been recently included by 𝐸 Master in his clinical confirmation. Apart from this, Lacus has been included by Dadier Grant George in the reference book Spirit of Homeopathic Medicine, Essential Insights into 300 Medicines, which was released in 1998. And plutonium nitricum was added by Dr. Jeremy Sher in the Homeopathic Proving of Plutonium Nitricum, including the Toxicology of Ionizing Radiation, released in the year 1999. And the two medicines, new medicines, Copaiva has been included by Tyne Pallet, and germanium met has been included by Hans Eberl. Okay. Now, when you see the cross references, we can see that the clinging children in, child clings to the mother, has 42 medicines listed as being given in the mind section. And you also have two more cross references, that is mother complex, again located in the synthesis Adonis, under which you have these 22 medicines. And then you have the mother fixation, where you can have these 20 medicines being listed under the mind section of synthesis Adonis. I'm not going into medicines in particular because the time is less. You can have a look around the medicines being included. Many new medicines have been included. Okay. And these are some of the new medicines included with their abbreviations and descriptions for your reference. Next, coming to the rubric Oedipus complex, which is given in the Degroot's dream repertory, which is new. So when you see Degroot's dream repertory, you can find the rubric Oedipus complex, whereby you can find three sub-rubrics. Oedipus complex is father wants to murder him. The child thinks that the father wants to murder him in the dreams. So here you have lycopodium, the single medicine. Next, his mother hangs as if she is in love at his right shoulder. So this is again lycopodium. You have the dream that the mother is hanging on his right shoulder and she is in love with him. Okay, the child dreams in his dreams. So this is lycopodium. And you have Oedipus complex, his wife is in his dream, his mother. The wife is looking like the mother in his dream. So here you have the medicine Max Self. So these are given in the Degroot's dream repertory. When you come to the medicine differentials, you can find that Calcarea carp has the supporting rubrics: attached very much to mother, adulterous, clinging to mother, protection, constantly wants mother's protection, shrieking, screaming, shouting in children, calling for mother, and we have love, perversity. So these are the rubrics which supports Calcarea carp for the Oedipus complex. Then if you come to 𝐊.𝐶𝐚𝐴, we have the supporting rubrics: attached very much to mother, desires attention, jealousy, protection, constantly wants mother's protection. So this is the rubrics which confirms Oedipus complex in 𝐊.𝐶𝐚𝐴, supporting rubrics. And when you see 𝐊.𝐻umanum, which is prepared from the mother's breast milk in humans, we have the supporting rubrics: attached very much to mother, anxiety for others, for loved ones, caressed, desire to be caressed, clinging to mother with indifference towards father, and desire for intimacy. These are the supporting rubrics for 𝐊.𝐻umanum for the Oedipus complex. When we have the next medicines, magnesium muriaticum, we have two supporting rubrics: very much attached to mother and clinging to mother. That is MAGMUR. And when you come to natrum muriaticum, we have the supporting rubrics: very much attached to mother, anxiety for others, especially for loved ones, clinging to mother, dresses, cross-dressing, transvestitism, we say it as, envy and hate, impressionable in susceptible children, jealousy in children, love wrong person with out of social context. So these are social taboos. So we have the natrum muriaticum here supporting the rubric. Last, we have the plutonium nitricum, where we have the supporting rubrics: attached very much to mother, clinging, take the hand, or part of the mother will always, fear of being alone, child wants mother to hold her hand, holding or being held, desire for mother's hand, persistent thoughts about father, reproaches his wife, love, perversity. Under the dream section, if you see, we have one dream supporting Oedipus complex in plutonium nitricum, that is dreams of mother. Okay. Right. We have some other rubrics which can be considered for Oedipus complex, which is not given under Oedipus complex, but these can be taken as cross references under Oedipus complex. These include anger, family towards father, especially parents, desires appreciation by mother, very much attached to mother, Carrie desires to be comfortable and cheerful in mother's lap. Carrie desires to be only by mother. Cheerfulness in mother's lap. Clinging to mother's indifference with father. Clinging to mother during sleep. Clinging, take the hand or part of the mother will always. Clinging, take the hand or part of the mother will always during sleep. Desire for company of family of mother. Desire for consolation, sympathy of mother. Disposition to contradict one's father. Domination by others, ailments from aggravation by father. Aversion to family, parents, especially father. Fear of being alone, child wants mother to hold her hand. Fear of one's father. Then hatred of father, indifference, apathy to father. Moaning, groaning, shrieking with occasional could only be pacified by holding the chest pressed close to one's mother's chest. Constantly wants mother's protection. Sadness, depression, thinking of father. Shrieking, screaming, shouting in children, calling for mother. Thoughts persistent, mothers and grandmothers on. Weeping, tearful mood for mother even when she is near. And last includes angry, quarreling with father. Calling out for mother. Child, children, babies on back of mother. Then of mother asking, and in dream section we have angry, quarreling with father. Dreams, calling out for mother. Dreams of mother asking for her milk. Dreams of child, children, babies on the back of mother. Dreams of mother in bed with her. So these are the rubrics under the dream section in synthesis, where you can find the rubrics related to Oedipus complex. So that completes the role of Oedipus complex, perceiving the rubric Oedipus complex in homeopathy. Thank you all. And if you have any doubts, you can ask me. That completes the session. Shall I turn the screen share off so that others could see?
Yeah, you can turn off the screen share.
Okay, sir. Yeah.
Now, for the audience, I request if you can have any questions. I don't see. I have seen some of the chat box. Dr. Balachandran, you also can see the chat box.
Yes, sir.
And there is some question which is not relevant. Suresh Kumar Mishra, he asked, "So, are potentile nuclear medicines be safety to use for the treatment of cancer?" The reply from the Praveen is yes. Then again, Suresh Kumar Mishra asked, "Good afternoon, health wellness teacher group." He is doing his address. No.
And sir, I think one Dr. Sripriya has asked, what is the Oedipus complex rubric in complete repertory?
Okay, that's you can.
Can I answer that?
You can answer.
Yeah. Dr. Sripriya, you can see that the Oedipus complex rubric is not present in complete repertory actually. It is the only repertory that is the synthesis Adonis which has this particular rubric of Oedipus complex. But I have given some of the rubrics which can be taken as a cross-reference to Oedipus complex, like the child clings to the mother. Okay, we have the dreams of mother. Okay, these cross references are present very well in this complete repertory. So instead of taking Oedipus complex as such, you can pick one of the rubric which well fits the case, and you can take this instead as the Oedipus complex depending upon your case findings. I hope Dr. Sripriya's doubt has been cleared away.
You can go through the chat and you can find out.
Yes. I don't think there is any questions over here, sir.
Yeah, no questions. I also don't find questions.
Yeah.
So yes, Doctor, I have to add for this. What about the new rubrics that is coming up? We have to take them in a very prospective way, and it will be appreciable that we will be able to, we can add our own experiences coming from the practice. And practical use of this repertory rubrics has to be followed up by all, so that we can have some session where we can share our experience using these rubrics. This is very much a requirement of the time, so that it will prove the efficacy and the necessity for changing the meaning and theme of the rubrics. I feel this is the things that is required now, because development is a continued process and it has to go, and we all welcome it. So with welcome, we also have to, because when you go through the concept of the radar or RadarOpus, the theme is that it is a teamwork. It is not an individual work. So many people are involving and so many people are sending the feedback. So it is necessary that we should have an opinion and we should send our opinions to the as a feedback to that. All those medicines included, they came only by receiving the feedback from others. I think this is complete, and now we have able to. So I thank you, Dr. Balachandran, to be with us, and over to the host, our moderator, Mr. Sharma. You can conclude the session.
Okay, sir. So, sir, I would like to extend a heartfelt thank you to our chief guest for gracing our homeopathy webinar with their presence. Our insider expertise have enriched our discussions, and we are grateful for your valuable contribution and your commitment to advancing homeopathic knowledge. It's truly commendable, and we also thankful to our doctors who join our sessions and Dr. Balachandran.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. Sorry, Mr. Sharma. Yeah, it has been a pleasure talking to you, and it has been a pleasure delivering these lectures to all those studious minds who wants to learn something new, because this is a rare rubric and it's a new one, and people should have an in-depth understanding of this particular rubric. Even it may seem that it is not used in day-to-day practice, but when the case comes or presents in front of you, you would not be hesitant enough to select the rubrics when it has been very crystal and clear to you regarding the depth of this particular rubric in remedy selection.
Dr. Balachandran, have you seen this rubrics in the complete repertory? I have not seen that.
So Oedipus complex as a rubric is not there, sir, but those rubric which I have given as can be taken as Oedipus complex, that is there.
No, not a specific word is there in that.
No, it is not there. Yeah. It is not there. Oedipus complex as a rubric is not there, but the shades of Oedipus complex is there.
Yes.
Okay, doctor. So shall I wind up the session?
Yeah, now it is. I think that it is complete, so you can wind it up.
Okay, sir. Thank you for coming and thank you for giving your precious time to both.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Sahni, sir, for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you all.
Right, sir.